Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Meta Cafe. As you can see, I have another wonderful new person sitting next to me. Her name is Amy Colvin. Welcome, Amy.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Janet. It's nice to see you.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad you could be here with us. Amy is, besides being a really good friend, she is also a very wonderful, compassionate meditation teacher. And she is going to treat us with a few ideas about how to greet the holidays with peace and ease. And, after already this morning, as you can see, Jason isn't with us and we're not sure why, because I know he had said he was going to be here, so I don't know where he is. I haven't heard back from him, so we'll bring him in as soon as we see him. We're still in the throes of Mercury going being retrograde. So I think in some ways we still get to play with this energy for another, till Saturday. Saturday is the day. Mark it on your calendar. There he is. Let's bring him in. He was probably having tech issues trying to get himself in here.
Oh, no. Mercury has other ways of dealing with me. Mercury, by the way, hello, beautiful lady. We deemed the hemorrhoid of the universe, of the celestial bodies. So I'm sitting here, I'm getting ready to go live, right? I'm right about to go, enter, and there's a large bang at the front door, and I'm like, what the fuck? And it's my sister's, I live with my sister and her family, blah, blah, blah. It's the landlord coming to check the fire alarms and carbon monoxide. So I'm like, hang on.
Perfect timing, dude.
Your hair is gorgeous. I'm surrounded. I have such hair envy, and I never did before I met you, Janet. Now you give me hair envy, and this disgusting. Oh my God, she's beautiful.
Well, Jason, meet Amy, and Amy, this is Jason, and Amy is here this morning because I asked her to come on the show with the winter solstice to be able to talk to us about how to make it through the holidays in peace and in compassion. And she's going to hear some. I know, great idea, right, Jason?
You didn't tell me you were bringing a comedian on today. What the fuck? I would have been like, great. Let's hear your routine.
Oh, God. It's not going to be quite like that, but I'll tell you what. So Amy, first thing this morning says to me, Janet, I heard about this astrologer who said that today was going to be the worst day of the year. Was it, Amy?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was really pretty interesting because I myself think of this as a really positive, powerful day. In fact, remember yesterday, people, I told everybody, get yourself get yourself a journal or get your journal out and write down everything that you observed today about the day, about what's happening to you, about the things that are going on in the outer world, about your feelings, about anything that comes up. Because today with Saturn conjunct the sun conjunct Saturn at 0 degrees of Capricorn, we get a really good idea of what the Saturn cycle is going to be about. And I've already it was 6 something this morning on my husband's clock. So it must have been 5:30 when I got up. I never do this, but lately I have this thing going on. So I wrote that in my book, up early. And the first thing I start hearing about, the first word that starts coming up is compliance, integrity. And I went, oh my goodness. So there's some juice here because now I can start to look at things and make sure everything I'm doing is in compliance or within integrity, or at least ask the question, why is that showing up in my outer world today? And knowing this gives me some insight into the next 2.5, 3 years of Saturn being in Capricorn. So important things, because we know that Saturn in Capricorn represents responsibility, integrity, ambition, our goals, and boundaries or limits, right? Playing in the playpen, and appropriate growth and not runaway growth. So it'll be an interesting day if you just, jot things down, and then we can look at it every month and say, okay, so how are things progressing through our Capricorn transit? Jason.
I'm listening.
You're a Capricorn. You should really do this.
Well, to be honest with you, I do, Amy, contrary to popular belief, I don't block her out 24/7. Because we are in touch a lot. And if we both listened to everything we said, we would probably go berserk. However, I do sometimes listen to her. Thank you, Michelle.
She's a smart lady.
I think I'm hysterical too. Thank you. To be honest with you, I'm a fucking freak show. It's funny. I took notice yesterday of what was happening within and without. Took a good hard look at how I'm overdoing it as a generator, as I said to you, because my sacral thing gets all gefucked, and it's a terrible thing, Amy. My root center, it gets gefucked. Anyway, we'll talk another time about this. So, but I've had a day, about a 24-hour day of peace. I have peace inside, and that's not my usual go-to place. Fuck that. I'll be peaceful when I'm in the crematorium. So I've been really, really peaceful.
I love it.
But it's odd. It's like something else is going on around me to make that happen, because I know that there's enough delightful unrest within me to cause enough disharmony. I'm trying to look at the bright side today, Janet. To cause enough disharmony that I'm working through my stuff. But I tell you, it's weird to have the pause button put on like that. And you're kind of like, oh, peace is possible. Love is possible. All things are possible with the Lord Jesus Christ. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Brothers and sisters, bring it on down. Okay, yes. And these are, Saturn brings us lessons. And if you learn the lesson, then you get the reward. When you don't learn the lesson, you get another hard knock. And
How
if you
can
don't
you have your pudding if you don't eat your meat? Pink Floyd said this very simply.
You can't have your pudding if you don't eat your meat.
Exactly. It's very. If we had all just listened to Pink Floyd, we would have been fine decades ago.
Yeah, there is that too. So all in all, this is. That's another line from the song, and no, I'm not going to break out in song. But all in all,
I was trying to be so good. Go ahead.
I couldn't even be serious myself.
Another brick in the wall.
There you go. But that's not what I was going to say. I was going to say, all in all, this is just another step on the path to your greatness. And if you look at it that way and you redirect yourself with the energy as it comes up, you'll find yourself succeeding through these periods of time. And instead of looking at it as punishment when Saturn inevitably pulls you up short, look at it as, oh, okay, so there must be an easier way for me to do this, or I've forgotten something that I must put into this. And look at it as a growth opportunity and not as a punishment or as a pulling the rug out from underneath you, because it's probably not that at all. It's just some, little thing. Generators, all three of us, Amy, you, me, and Jason, we're all generators. And we're meant to take one step at a time, right? Take one foot and put it in front of you, and then wait for the universe to reveal the next step, and you take that step. But like manifesting generators, at times we're all over the place, and we're just throwing stuff out there and trying to build something without the foundation. And so don't forget the foundation. Right? That's the important piece. Your house will not stand if you don't have a solid foundation. And that's going to be the message that we are going to hear now for the next few years, is that build that foundation, put down deep roots, then build, because then you have strength and you have perseverance, you have endurance. So, Jason, I know you need to go early this morning because of a doctor's appointment.
We're doing good on time, so thank you for that. I wanted to interrupt you, and Janet and I have this ongoing sort of joke, because she's very much good witch. I'm bad, cop, bad warlock, whatever. And she really tries to not monstrify is the word. Monstrify. Can't use that one in the word game because they only give me 7 E's and 6 A's, Janet. But to monstrify Saturn, because obviously I'm Capricorn and left side brain in certain ways, and and Saturn always seems to be a humdinger of a planet, if I might put it that way. So I happen to have sung opera. Janet and I love music, and I did a whole show on chakras and the sounds that emanate, and I have to go back and now look at it, because I was making a spreadsheet, and of course I'm a bad psychic, and I didn't put it all together. But our girlfriend Tracy Lockwood, who is this adorable woman that Janet introduced me to, Janet does her show and blah blah blah. She sends me this thing this morning, and you know how you have a thought in your head of what things are going to be like. Like if I had never talked to you, Janet, or you, Amy, I would have this idea of what you looked like in my head, because we do that. So she sends me this thing of recorded sounds of the planets from space, meaning that each planet, evidently they were able to pick up a sound from the planet. So now, look, I know that Saturn she's a bitch, right? Or it's a he, probably. Is it a he or she? It's a she? It's a he.
It's a he.
But he's got this gorgeous tiara. And I'm thinking, oh, his sound is going to be Ova. His sound is going to be cannot wait. So they do the sun, crackle, crackle, Then they do the, they get to Saturn. It's what hell sounds like. It's like if you went through Dante's Inferno and there are several levels of hell, this is in the basement of Hades. You have to understand, it was this disharmonious screeching. There was a screeching. It sounded like people were dying. It sounded like a picture by Hieronymus Bosch, like the gates of hell and stuff. And then it goes on to the other planets, and they're all like,
Well, Saturn is often depicted as the Grim Reaper, right? If you Google Saturn and then click on images, what you're going to get is this hooded figure in black with a scythe, right? Because that's who Saturn is considered to be. So he gets a bad rap, Amy, right from the start, right? But Saturn is really, I think I said this yesterday, where Saturn in the body rules the skin, the teeth, and the bones. Where would you be without your bones, right? You'd be a puddle of meat on the ground with your organs on the outside because there's no skin to hold you in. You'd be a jellyfish, really a jellyfish. And I want a meat suit without the suit.
I can't. It's like a whole Futurama episode. Like you just. So anyway, I just found that so fascinating, because I thought, of course, Venus, and I thought Mars and Saturn being dramatic planets. I thought they would have these operatic, and then we get to Saturn, and it was a cacophony, the likes with which sounded like hate. I was just like, oh, of course. It was like violins on the very high, and I was like, oh, of course, that's my planet, and then it moves on to Pluto. Oh, and it was very interesting, because Janet, the world is changing.
Is it?
They said all of the sounds of from space, all of the sounds of the planets plus Pluto.
That's because he's a dwarf. It's so messed up. As if he doesn't have any power anymore or something.
So let me, for today, we're doing good on time. So Amy, I've blabbed.
But you're so entertaining, Jason.
Oh God, it's just like, give him coffee and go. What do you have to weigh in on at the moment? Anything strike you from that conversation?
That you're insane?
Well, what, Janet?
That he's insane?
Well, there's that, but what really struck me is...
I've been called worse by better people.
What struck me, though, was the idea of Saturn being related to bones and teeth, and it's like, as soon as our bodies die, that's the thing that's left.
Right. The lasting pieces, right? The hardest thing in the body besides the bone are the teeth, right? So it's interesting. Your skin isn't so hard, but it has, this elasticity to it. And it also has this boundary, right? It keeps things outside from getting in, and it keeps the things inside from getting out. So it's really kind of interesting to see how the planets relate to the parts of the body. When someday maybe we'll do a show all around that. Amy, I want to give you a minute now. If Jason doesn't have to leave, I want to give you a minute now to tell us more about you and the work that you do, because you do some really beautiful work out in the world. And I think when we're sitting here talking about all the harshness of Saturn, that it might be nice to talk about some of the more softer sides of ourselves.
Well, it's actually pretty funny because I was thinking about, okay, now how can I create this segue between what you guys are talking about and where I want to go with it? And the first thing that I've got on my bullet point of things to talk about is adopting a positive mindset. And I'll talk about that more in a minute. But the other thing that really jumped out at me is being willing to set aside differences. And it goes right back to what I said to you when I first got on with you, Janet, about, hey, there's this astrologer in London who thinks today is going to be the worst day of the year. And it's like, okay, so my opinion is different than his, and that's okay. And being able to shift into the idea of acknowledging that everybody has a valid viewpoint and we don't always have to agree with it.
See, this is where we disagree. This is where the ajna comes in, and I say we have a huge responsibility. I know psychics out there that are making herbal baths and charging people hundreds of dollars and saying they'll get rid of some old karmic debt and bullshit like that. I think we have an obligation to not spread fear, unless you're Janet Hickox. And even then, when you're her, she does it so beautifully that you can't even tell that she's saying, "Watch out." So I disagree with people. They can have their opinions, but they may not be in a position of consultation.
But what makes you believe that your way is right and their way is wrong? If they have clients for whom they're being successful, where's the harm in that? Because
what I'm discussing are charlatans.
Well, we don't know that this person was a charlatan at all. In fact,
but that's my point. This is exactly my point. And when she said everybody has an opinion, that's fine. But we have an obligation to make sure that we are spreading the light. And if you're going to say it's the worst day in the world and be a doomsayer, and you're one of those people, like I said, that is selling people not quackery. What is it? Those people that used to run through the villages with the carts and the emollients and things, and
right, the snake oil salesman.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that, snake oils. So yeah, no, I don't think everybody is entitled to their opinion. My mother used to say, you're gonna love it. My mother used to say, "Free to be you, but not around me."
Amy,
well, one way that you could choose to work with that, though, instead of just taking that hard, fast, no, I'm going to disagree with you, is take those people that you think are charlatans or whose opinion you disagree with, and have the courage to be curious and go, hey, tell me more about where you're coming from. Help me understand your perspective.
Yes.
And then it gives you more leverage to debunk their myths if that's what you still need to do.
Nice tactic. She's good.
But that's a perfect way to come back at that, because, after all, everybody, they are entitled to their opinion. It doesn't mean that they're supposed to spread their opinion to the world. And if they're going to present that to the world, they could say, in my opinion, this is going to be one of the worst days of the calendar year. I wouldn't do that, because to me, I think it's a great day. But at the same time, maybe in their experience, Saturn has brought them some pretty harsh experiences. And so they're coming from the filter of their own life. We all do that. So it makes
and that brings me to this other really great point that I wanted to share today, is the idea that it's valuable to take a look at what someone's underlying needs might be. So and I love the fact that you brought up the idea, Janet, that, this person may have this relationship with Saturn. And that's colored how they are in the world today. So, you know, again, having the courage to be curious, to understand where they're coming from, but also having the willingness to say, hey, what's going on for you? What's that backstory that's causing you to respond in this way? And you can apply it to viewing Saturn, you can apply it to all different aspects of life, but having that willingness to actually go, hey, what's the underlying need that is not being met for this person who's being a jerk?
And to use one of your perfect words, Amy, this would be about having compassion, right? For an individual whose experience may not be very positive around these kind of transits, or who maybe
Right.
in life their father just passed away or something, and they're not coming through from a position of joy or anything like that, where they can really see things a little bit clearer. Or maybe that, you know, like me, I'm a Pollyanna. I choose to see things in a completely different way. But it doesn't mean we can't have compassion for whatever that person's experience is. And having brought up that word, tell us a little bit more about the work you do around that, compassion.
It looks like Jason wants something, though, before I get going.
Viviana Labucate was asking, what about projectors? I think you were referring to something that was characteristic of a generator, and she wanted to know something about the projectors, and I lost the thread of it, damn it, because I got so into what Amy was saying.
Yeah. I will address that for you, Deva, before we get out of here today, but I want to give Amy some time here, since she's the guest, to present what she wanted to talk to us about today. Jason, are you not on a time limit anymore?
I have guests arriving, supposedly, and you know how people are late, so I will tell you if I have to wrap it up and do a quickie. So I'm enjoying myself, so I'm just going to hang with you beautiful ladies.
We like it. Okay, back to you, Amy.
All right. Well, so really it's all of this is around compassion, and that's what I have chosen to spend my life doing right now, is helping people move into that space of acceptance and compassion for self and others. And those points that I mentioned are all key aspects of that. Being able to adopt a positive mindset, being able to set aside differences, and being able to recognize that there's value in having your own boundaries. And all of those things are wonderful to look at on a day like today, which is that wonderful transition between the shortest day of the year moving into the longest days of the year. It's great for the holidays, and it's great to move you into 2018. And really,
the light, right? That's what we're doing. Literally, we're moving into the light.
yes, and what I really love is I'm sitting here wearing clothes representing the darkness, and you're wearing clothes representing the incoming light. I don't know if you did that on purpose, but it's beautiful.
Never crossed my mind.
But I guess really the thing that I want to share with people is the idea that as we embrace compassion, especially for ourselves, and acceptance, especially for ourselves, it creates this lovely foundation so we can extend that out more to those people we find to be difficult. And that really, you know, again, it comes in by taking the time to not be threatened if somebody else's perspective is different than your own.
Absolutely. And situational grace here as well, because sometimes you're thrust into a situation that happens. It's not any of your doing, but it's there in front of you. And, you know, if you are going, I talk a lot to people in my coaching about reaction versus action, right? Deliberate action versus reaction. And, you know, with Saturn now playing a very big role here, you're going to pay the price for reaction. What's called for now is conscious, deliberate action in how we greet one another, in the actions we take moving forward. And so if you can stop and be in deliberate compassion, that's a new phrase for you, Amy. You can use this. Deliberate compassion, where you just stop and you're like, open up your heart and go, whoa, what is going on with this person? And I don't have to react and gut wrench and go, oh, you're so stupid, or that's the worst thing I've ever heard you say, or something. You can be kind and generous and compassionate and loving.
Well, and a really...
So I'd like to stop and I'd like to ask a pertinent question, because Janet's show is called Living Astrology, not Theoretical Astrology. And Amy, do not take my tone as being severe or strange or anything other than bipolar. So This is all great. This is all very nice, touchy-feely. I'm going to give you a scenario. You've got somebody who life has shown X, Y, and Z. They're trying to progress. They've been really worked over, but I mean good. And they come across our broadcast and they hear us and we're talking la 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 compassion, la 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 compassion. And they want to be compassionate, Janet. They like the idea of this compassionate. They don't know how to turn it on. They don't know where to start. So we could talk until the cows come home about compassion, but there are people who have lost touch with that. So, my compassionate ladies, how do we get people whose souls, who have been so worked over, I'm not going to use the word damaged, I hate that word. I don't believe you can damage God light. But that's a different conversation. So tell me, when we're tapped out, when we're tired of seeing everybody else around us progress, when you see somebody who's got a mental disability and you've had it with them, how do you turn it on?
Amy, that's that's all you, Amy.
I was going to say the first thing that jumps into my mind is take my 7-week online course.
That's great.
We will spend hours upon hours together discussing those very things, taking baby steps, starting out with the simplicity of just connecting with your own breath, taking that time to just slow down. But I love what Vavya is saying here. Perception creates reality, and that's where it starts. If you have had and I love teaching this stuff because I know that it works. I was a very fearful kid who was the queen of beating myself up with Invisible Cat of Nine Tails.
Sounds like a party.
It does. It was a party in my own head of, you're not good enough, you're not worthy. And eventually I realized that something had to change or I was going to jump off that bridge into the water and never come back.
Yeah.
And I decided to make that change. And for me, what really helped was slowing down enough to start breathing and connecting with that God light within that you mentioned. We are all children of God and we're all meant to shine. And it's easy to forget that. And I'm not saying that moving into a space of embracing compassion is going to be easy. But I'm telling you that you'll have a much...
Actually.
What's that, Jane?
I don't think it's easy at all. And I think that's to Jason's point, but it's something that you have to deliberately enter into. You have to say, okay, I'm done beating myself up. I'm now going to enter into a loving relationship with myself. And you're saying that begins with just breathing, giving yourself the space to change that, in Veva's words, the perception of what's been happening, right?
Absolutely. And then the cool thing about taking some nice intentional breaths is it does create a little bit of a gap so that you can respond rather than reacting. You can begin to make choices. And I was talking to a friend of mine the other day that was doing something I thought was really brilliant that I hadn't really thought of before, is she was in a really tough way for a while and she started writing letters of support to herself. And then she'd stamp them, put them in the mail, and mail them back to herself. And she didn't edit herself as she was writing. And when she got these letters in the mail every day, sometimes the mail is slower or faster. And inevitably, these letters would come back to her at just the right time when she needed to hear that message again. So willingness to slow down and hang out with who you are, even if it's painful. And then choosing to have a different mindset around it. And I think that the willingness to embrace change is the first step. So that's what I would say to you, Jason, in terms of working with somebody who has just had a really difficult and, a difficult life, who doesn't see good in anything or anybody. It's like, okay, if you want to shift out of that, you have to change the mindset and be willing to accept yourself for who you are. And then eventually you can move into self-compassion after you process self-appreciation and self-acceptance.
I love that idea of sending letters to myself.
Yeah.
That is such a great idea. I mean, she was brilliant.
Yeah. And I mean, it was a totally life-changing experience for her. And, you know, God bless her. She's actually turning those letters into a memoir that she's written, and it's a book she wants to publish. And I thought, wow, that's super awesome.
Yeah, that is really good. So you're saying then, I mean, you mentioned a little bit ago a class, a series or something that you're doing. Tell us a little more about that and how people can connect with that, because I think that's a really juicy thing to start the year with.
Yeah, well, great. Thanks for asking that. So, and I'm guessing that you'd be able to drop into like the Facebook link or Facebook.
I'm going to go get it right now.
Later. Okay. So basically what it is it's curriculum that you can experience either in a weekend. So Jason, if you wanted to fly out here to Washington and visit with Janet and me, you could fly on out for a weekend. It's a fantastic way to immerse yourself into this content and really do a deep dive. And the modules that we cover include self-appreciation, self-acceptance, self-compassion, compassion for loved ones, shifting into compassion for people we find to be difficult, like maybe those snake oil salesmen out there, and then just bringing it all together. So a weekend workshop is one way to have that happen. The other thing is, if Jason, for example, can't hop on a plane and come out to Washington, we can do exactly like we're doing right now. It's a video class, fully interactive, and for 7 weeks, 2 hours at a time, we go through those modules together. And there's guided meditations that you'll receive that are thematic with each week. And then if you really want to go big, you can experience that same curriculum by joining me on a retreat that I'm doing in Peru in May. So not only do you get the glory of being able to see all this beautiful landscape and learn about these ancient cultures, you also have the opportunity to explore that interior landscape as well.
Great idea. Now I've posted the link on in the chat, and I've also put it on the screen. So there's two places for people to connect with that, and they can. I'm not sure that it tells us what the name of the course is in the link. I'm sorry, I didn't.
No, it doesn't look like it does. It's called Cultivating Mindful Compassion. And if it's any easier for folks to remember, if you just go to amycolvin.com, you'll find it. But this link that Janet put in there will take you directly to the course. So, Jason, did any of that help?
My first thoughts were, how nice it would be if you could come on one and or both of our radio shows and do monthly, bi-monthly, something like that, installments of tricks to get your compassionate juices flowing.
I'd be happy to.
That would be an awesome thing. I don't ask you to give away all of your nuggets for free.
Don't give us your chicken nuggets.
I won't ask you for all of your Lucky Charms for free. The next thing that occurred to me, so I do these things called a one-card identifier card. Are you familiar with the tarot?
A little bit. Certainly not like you and Janet are, but I recognize cards, but I don't know what they mean.
The major arcana brings us from the 0 card or the 1 card straight through to the 21st or 22nd card, depending on how that fleshes out. That's a different conversation. And while you were talking to me, this big word, compassion, it's a big word, see? It feels big. It feels cumbersome. It feels large.
Can I give you a quick definition?
Yes, of course.
This might help you break it down. So if you think about it this way, compassion is nothing more than a 3-step process. 1, being aware of suffering or distress either in yourself or others. The second prong is being emotionally moved by that awareness. And the third step is taking action. And that action can be as simple as giving yourself a hug, giving somebody else a hug, wishing someone well from afar, or it could be big, like donating money, giving clothes off your back. Anyway, back to you, that big word, compassion. Now he's speechless. No.
No, I'm trying. I'm couching things because the way I think, I don't know if everybody else thinks, and because of this defined ajna, it puts me out of communicating with certain people. So I'm trying to be heard, and here's what I have to say about it. I know that if I was to pick your identifier card, a certain card would come out. I don't need to pick it. There are some tenets in this physical world. There are some laws of physics that are demonstrated and predicted by your mental attitude, this intellect, which creates hormonal scenario, which creates vibrational frequency. I can continue on with the esoterica, but the thing that struck me is that you have dedicated your life to a major principle of spirituality. It's one of them. But it is, when I say a major principle, it is as major as the word compassion. Now, I'm sorry I sound like a dramatic black female opera singer, but there is a card that occurs in the major arcana. It's the underlying message. Without compassion, you cannot go from the 11 card into the 12 card. The 11 card, the 1-1 card, the card for 2018, folks, that Janet has helped me with, is the compassion card. Really, it should be called compassion. It was badly named. It should be called the love card, not the 6 card. The love card should be the number 11 card, because that is the card of pure love. And it can only, it's the pure card of love only through compassion. You must complete your compassionate efforts in this world in order to unlock this love for humanity and yourself, to get to the Hanged Man, which means then all of your chakras are starting to fire. So I find it fascinating that you have dedicated your life to helping people at this critical stage of the tarot, of the spirit enlightenment process that is depicted through the cards. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Right on. Thank you for, I would never have put that all together, but wow, what a fantastically auspicious time.
Ah, shucks.
So I have a client this morning at 9 o'clock. So we've got to bring this down to a dull roar here. Jason, would you pull us a card for the day, or are we going to go with the strength card as the card that we're using today?
Oh no.
He's already pulled a card. He's giggling.
Hey, Amy.
Yes.
Maybe that fucker was right.
Uh-oh. It's what, the 12 of Swords?
Ah!
Oh my God.
The 10 of Swords. Hold on. I'm going to, I can't do it. I can't hide it so that it's just him. Well, maybe I can. There we go. Jason, I wish you could see the frame. There's 3 Christmas stockings in our frame, and then these 10 swords with this poor man pegged in them.
The new Christmas card. Wish you were here.
Well, hey, it's an opportunity for us to express compassion for the poor man who's been poked by 10 swords.
Oh no, he froze.
The swords got him.
It is a very obvious nod to Saturn and the fact that his lessons are demonstrable. There is a red cloak underneath this hovering body, and it is the cloak of pure spirituality. It can only happen when you finally remove these swords. Learn the lessons, folks. Get with it. Get down dirty with your shit. Learn the lessons. Go out there. Do Meals on Wheels. You think you're bad? Wait till you can't fucking walk out of the house. I know, I've been crippled before. Go walk a pit bull that's been abused. compassion, love yourself. So I love you, Janet. I love you, Amy. You guys are delicious and fantastic. And I hope you come on and teach people how to stop hating themselves on a monthly basis. Janet, thank you for letting me share the airwaves. I love you, and I will...
We all love you too, Jason. You are the light in our lives. You make us laugh. You make us think about things that we wouldn't normally think about. Amy,
bipolar.
You opened my ajna is already open. So you open us up to new ideas.
On the radio show.
What?
I have not decided yet.
I'll see you tonight on Janet's Living Astrology radio show tonight, which is on Blog Talk Radio. For all of you that don't know about that, it is at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, my time, 4 p.m. Janet's time. I hope that you all tune in. Tonight, we're going to be talking about sex, drugs, and opera.
Really? I hadn't thought about that. No, honestly, I think what I'll do tonight is I'm going to try to keep it to readings. I'd like to, keep the information to a dull roar and do a lot of charts for people. So if you want a reading, finding out what your new year looks like or how this Saturn thing is going to affect you. I want
a reading. I want a reading. I want a reading.
You get them anyway.
I know. I'm just being piggy.
I'm going to put the phone number up here. So tell your friend, oops, that is not the number. If you want a reading or if you have a friend that wants a reading, and they can call in to this number. Did it go up there? Yeah. And make sure I put the right one this time. And all I need is birth date, time, and place, and I can do a chart. Jason will help get all that information collected in the background, and we can do readings for people tonight. That'll be 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. East Coast time on Blog Talk Radio. I will be posting that on the Living Astrology page here in the next couple of hours. And Amy, oh my gosh, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And we would love to have you back again. Talking about compassion can only strengthen it out there in the world. We got that going. Jason, I guess we love you too so much.
You're not sure, but you can.
Big kisses. Everybody, take care. Have a wonderful day. And we'll see you tomorrow morning. Same bat channel, same bat time. Bye.
Bye.